when they ripped open his shirt on his deathbed, they discovered that Lincoln was incredibly ripped. He was a rail splitter, and he stayed in that shape, I guess, all the way through his presidency. So I was like, gosh, I didn't think I'd have to get a personal trainer to play Lincoln, but
Something you don't learn about in the history books, though, for sure.
What was his diet like?
If you notice in a lot of the scenes, Lafayette puts forth the veneer of righteousness and duty and honor, and he's saying that so loud so that maybe you want to pay attention to the fact that he is also pulling strings behind the scenes to benefit himself, which I think is a very human thing that I'm sure is going on today everywhere.
Patton, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We are doing so great. We absolutely love you, and you're so great in this series. So we're just excited to be talking with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, guys.
No, of course. Other than the fantastic beard that you rock in this series, what was it about Lafayette Baker that really drew you into his character?
I really love the fact that he is a truly murky human being. He is not one of these noble figures from history. He did noble work when it was expedient for him, but he was not unaware that there's money to be made, there's a career to be bolstered, and in a weird way, maybe even made him a better pursuer because he had a carrot dangling in front of him. But it's a good reminder that a lot of historical events had other motives behind them than the ones that I think the simple history narratives assigned to them. And to get to play that complexity, to me, was fantastic.
Yeah, and I think it's so fun, too, because this is so different than some roles that we're used to seeing you in. So I think getting to see you in a world like this was really exciting. And I think, like as we said, you're just so great in it.
Thank you. I really had a lot of fun playing someone who is, and if you notice in a lot of the scenes, Lafayette puts forth the veneer of righteousness and duty and honor, and he's saying that so loud so that maybe you want to pay attention to the fact that he is also pulling strings behind the scenes to benefit himself, which I think is a very human thing that I'm sure is going on today everywhere.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We may know a lot about Lafayette from historical records, but how did you approach kind of filling in the gaps of who Lafayette was?
A lot of that was just instinct. How does someone like that operate for as long as he did and get away with it? I would imagine with a lot of charm, with a lot of just folks chumminess, and maybe even some self-effacement. A part of his toolkit, including being a cop, is to keep people off guard, to maybe make them think they've got one up on you, so that they'll relax and tell you what you need to know, or do the thing you need them to do, or most importantly, ignore the thing you need them to ignore and focus on something else. So that to me was a very, very human and very real thing to get to play.
Just before we wrap up, we're so grateful for your time, but we're curious for yourself, when you got that call for Ghostbusters, what was it like?
It was amazing. It's the friggin' Ghostbusters, for God's sakes. I get to do scenes with Dan Aykroyd and Paul Rudd. I could not have been happier.
Well, we hope we get to talk to you for that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely know that you will. And I can literally see the questions trying to push their way out of your skull right now. And I really appreciate you guys you're staying on target. And we will see you later for Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Lafayette was a big fan of Ghostbusters, as you recall, as
Yes,
well.
he was. He loved Ghostbusters.
Big fan. And thank you so much. Again, we're such huge fans of yours. We hope to talk again soon.
Thank you.
Will. Thank you.
We're so grateful for you sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast today, and congratulations on the series. It's so fantastic, and it's been so great being able to chat with the cast today because everyone seems really excited about it.
Oh, that's great to hear. They're fantastic.
They really are, and for yourself, something we love so much about the show is that we get so many different perspectives that surround the time before and after Abraham Lincoln. What excited you most about taking on Manhunt as a project?
Oh, so many things. I think, from a young age, I just absolutely loved movies, and I went on a class trip and saw The Age of Innocence when I was in high school, and I just thought it was absolutely incredible. And I think that very few women get to tell stories of this scope and period, with this kind of richness of character. And so it was just a huge opportunity for me to, make a show that had such, historic period and huge ensemble story to it.
Yeah, and it's fascinating too because this is such a world-changing event that happened. So it's been really interesting to get all these stories that happened all around that.
I didn't really know anything except that John Wilkes Booth shot Lincoln and assassinated him in a theater, and that John Wilkes Booth was an actor, which is a crazy detail. And so really researching it and writing it, I was learning it as I went along. And to know that there were more attacks that night than just Lincoln, I had no idea. The fact that he was assassinated just 5 days after Lee surrendered, and how devastating it must have been to celebrate the war ending and then all of a sudden to have this enormous tragedy fall on the country and lose most of his second term. That shocked me as well. I never realized those events were, so connected.
Absolutely. And, there's such an authenticity to everything in the series, from the sets, the performances, and of course, we get the Ford Theater as well. History changed there. So how did you prepare for bringing that moment to screen?
I think everyone kind of had goosebumps and felt personally responsible for making it effective. It was extremely hard to find a theater that would look of the same period and that had a balcony close enough to the stage. There's very few of those left. So it was such a great thing that we were able to film that in Philadelphia, which is my hometown. So I was even able to put my mom in a gown and put her in the audience. So it was very exciting, special. And I think also there was an awareness. I was working with Carl Franklin on that episode, and I think there was an awareness between the two of us that in the past, it's not people like us who get to tell American history stories on screen as much. And the fact that both of us are Black artists and we got to tell this story really moved us and empowered us and made us feel really responsible. Everyone on the crew, has a connection to Lincoln and felt like just a sort of awe that we got to do it,
Absolutely. Monica, thank you so much for your time today. The show is absolutely fantastic, and we can't wait for more people to watch it. And we hope to get to talk to you soon as well.
I'd love that. Thank you so much.
Hi, Hamish. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
So
Thank
good.
you so much for taking your time with us today. This show is absolutely fantastic, and your portrayal is so amazing. At one point, we were just like, okay, we're just watching the real Lincoln at this point.
That's nice of you to say.
And Abraham Lincoln is also one of the most iconic political figures ever. How did you begin to find his voice and balance doing a performance instead of an impression?
The goal from the beginning was to do sort of, show Lincoln as like a father and a husband and a friend. Because the story that we were going to be telling was about how his friend, just relentlessly tracked down John Wilkes Booth and then relentlessly tried to fulfill the promise of Lincoln's legacy. So it was more that Lincoln than maybe the Gettysburg Lincoln.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I think there's something just so authentic in your performance and just the entire series as a whole. When you were preparing to take on this role, what was something in your own research that may have surprised you now having played him that you did not know before about him?
Well, there's a funny story that it's not funny, but that when they ripped open his shirt on his deathbed, they discovered that Lincoln was incredibly ripped. He was a rail splitter, and he stayed in that shape, I guess, all the way through his presidency. So I was like, gosh, I didn't think I'd have to get a personal trainer to play Lincoln, but
Something you don't learn about in the history books, though, for sure.
What was his diet like?
well, he lost a lot of weight. All presidents do, it seems like well, not every president, but yeah, he lost that presidential 15 pretty fast. They were really dropping away. It was a stressful time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about what's going on in that time in history, this event changed the world, and we were just thinking about the Ford Theater, like we were saying, history changed there. How did you prepare for that moment? Because that is one of the most known moments in the history of the world, really.
Well, a real happy discovery in going through that moment was that, Lincoln died laughing. He was at a comedy with his wife and actually having a lovely night out. And so that's kind of, I mean, he deserved a laugh after going through that war, as did we all.
Absolutely. Hamish, thank you so much for your time. Your performance, like we said, is brilliant in the show, and we can't wait for more people to watch it. And we hope we get to talk to you soon in the future as well.
Oh, thank you both so much. I appreciate it.